Good morning, everyone. We're so glad you joined us on the This Way Network. Peace, joy, and love to all of you, as Rodney's cut says.
That's
Thanks for
right.
joining me and my co host Rodney and our guest today, Mia Pyle, on the chat session on the This Way Network. And thanks to so many of you in our viewership who are already on, Carrie and AC. And I hope Jacqueline is going to be on. There she is. So we're looking forward to seeing all of you. We're going to have a great discussion today because we're going to be talking about navigating the holidays.
That's right.
Yes. Yeah. Great topic and a timely one that we all need right now.
Oh, yes. It is so important. There's so many. So we've come through Thanksgiving. Somebody would even say Halloween, right?
Right.
And now we're headed into Christmas, which is a huge holiday. And also there's New Year's and there's, Valentine's Day. And, there's probably some more sprinkled in between. Martin Luther King, there's
There you go.
so many holidays coming our way. So absolutely.
That's true. And so, everybody out there, happy Kwanzaa, happy Hanukkah, Merry Christmas, Feliz Navidad. I don't know if there was anything else. Anybody else got anything else? We got all the
Fröhliche Weihnachten.
Day. Oh, woo, what was that? What was that?
Yeah.
That was German.
Wow.
That was German.
Okay.
Oh, that's powerful.
Nice.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, we actually are looking at the holidays as this is a time where there's so much love and giving and things like that. But sometimes the holidays can cause a lot of stress. And of course, it could be a number of things. Maybe someone has given you a really great gift and you kind of feel like you're just not at a place where you can match it.
Right.
And sometimes you have questions, is a holiday greeting card enough?
Right.
And so Mia, I mean, what can you say about this? I mean, we have the holidays and sometimes there's some heavy expectations that are set, by friends, family, co-workers. And you know, the holidays can be really, really people don't realize the holidays could be so stressful that they really can, I mean, really put people in a grip. And sometimes people just kind of want to sink back and just be at home, have a nice cup of tea, and just not get into the whole rat race of the holidays. And sometimes, is that wrong? Is it wrong to sometimes just allow people to just kind of quietly bow
And
out and just enjoy?
yes, and before you answer, let me throw out every year, and my mother even noticed this, every year in January, just after the holidays, my mother would get sick.
Wow.
For about 2 weeks. And she said it
Mhm.
always hit her right after the end of New Year's.
Ooh.
And she thought it was because she just had been running, doing so much
Mhm.
over the holidays. And then it was like crash and burn.
Wow.
Wow.
So, yeah.
That's so good. Wow. One thing so I praise God that he blessed me to become a mental health first aid instructor, right? And
Mhm.
in my dual certification of this, one of the huge things that we are trained to look for are signs and symptoms of mental illness, right? And the reason I'm bringing this up is because so many people don't realize how much during the holidays their mental health is in jeopardy, right? And your physical health, like you brought in, with your mom, and this can also turn into your physical health from a mental standpoint. And so I am so glad that you all are doing this show and that we're talking
Mhm.
about this, because we're on a spectrum, right?
Right.
Am I well? Am I becoming unwell? I am unwell. I'm in crisis and now I'm getting better, and so on and so forth, right? And so
Mhm.
we want to really, be aware of what we can do to take care of ourselves. And this is the rule that I love to use. And tell me what you all think about this. A holiday is
Mhm.
for me. A
Okay.
holiday
Oh,
for me, right?
Oh,
So that's the purpose, isn't it? Is it not the purpose that a holiday is for me? It's a day for
hmm.
me. It's a gift for
That's
me.
good.
It is an opportunity for me. And I get to use that gift however I want, right? Because when somebody gives you a gift, are they allowed to tell you how to use it, when to use it, how many times to use it, how you're going to do it? You know, it's a gift. So I gave it to you. It's in your jurisdiction to decide what you're going to do with it, how you're going to do it, you know, all the things. And so that is number one, my first foundation that I stand on when I think about surviving the holidays. That let's remember that the holiday is for you. It is for you.
Wow.
It
That's
is
right.
your gift. It is your opportunity, and you get to decide. And somebody might even say it's your responsibility to decide
Ooh.
this will go, how it will be for you, you know?
Mhm.
Isn't that awesome? And I mean, we
Right.
definitely have some strategies that I want to get into, but I was just hoping that, you know, you all would share maybe a story. I know I have some, and I'm like, oh, which one? Where,
Right.
you're at, you're, I don't know, at the table or you're at the house and things happen. And then,
Mhm.
what can we do, you know?
Wow.
Oh, tensions can be very high
Yes.
when you've
Mhm.
got all these expectations and you're wanting things to be a certain way. And then when it feels like one person bucks what you're wanting to do,
Mm.
and you don't realize that you have projected this onto everyone else and you're expecting everyone else to go along with your little dream,
Mm,
you
mm,
know.
mm.
Ooh.
And then one person doesn't do it, and all of a
Right.
sudden it's like your holiday is ruined. You've been working for weeks on this and now your holiday is ruined because not everyone is going along with your
Mhm.
expectations.
Wow. And I mean, that sounds similar to what Rodney was saying,
Mhm.
right? When he
Mhm.
came on, he said he had he had
Thank
made the
you.
turkey and the trimmings, and he
Mhm.
Yeah.
himself could not go with his offering that he made. And
Yeah.
that person was very, very distraught or upset. It became a situation, you know?
Right.
Mhm.
And
Right.
so that is so unfortunate. And one huge thing that I love when I think about that whole
Mhm.
concept that the holiday is for me, the holidays then become a boundary that I get to
Mhm.
decide. Right. And I know
Right.
I really highly advocate the book Boundaries by Dr.
Mhm.
Henry Cloud and Townsend, Dr. Townsend. It is an amazing book that I'm studying and I study. And I want to just put these out there. Okay. And I want everybody, as you're hearing these, okay, because we're going to go over it over and over again because these are our tools, okay? As you
Mhm.
hear these and as we talk about different stories, these are the tools that we can implement to survive the holidays. And I just want to give it to us in the front so that we can think about stories that we've experienced or that somebody else experienced and see how the tools that we have could have been implemented or how
Mhm.
we can implement them going forward. Does that make sense?
Mhm.
Mhm.
Okay,
Mhm.
so these
Yeah.
are very super simple. Okay, strategies to survive the holidays, and I had to write it down because these are things I just have to keep in my mind. But I'm just gonna say it. Number one, okay, we
Mhm.
have the tool of our voice. We have the
Mhm.
tool of our voices, right?
That's right. That's
And
right.
when I'm talking about the tool of our voice, I'm talking about the ability to communicate, right?
Mhm.
The
Mhm.
Oh, so
ability.
you didn't mean we get to scream or anything like that, right?
Oh, thank you.
Mm.
If we're screaming, it's because we're out in a forest where we're by ourselves and we're releasing the tension and the anxiety, but we
Makes
don't want
sense.
to
Mhm.
scream at someone else and make them feel unsafe,
Right.
right?
Right.
Right.
There's a way to do everything
Mhm.
healthy,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
So thank you for that. I'm so glad you said that. But we get to use our voice so many times. Things happen and we don't communicate. We do not say how
Mhm.
we really feel about something, how something really was actually so important to us. We just say,
Mhm.
well, I'm not going to say anything. Fine. That's how they want to
Mhm.
do it. Well, I'm just not going to say anything, you know? And then we have
Mhm.
that energy and that aura that comes with it, right?
Mhm.
Or
Mhm.
we things are happening, right? That
Mm.
right, yeah.
Oh, oh, I know.
Yes.
Yeah, I got that.
Yes. Perfect,
Yeah.
perfect. And it's
Yeah.
like we sometimes expect people to even know, like they should have known. That's another one
Mhm.
that people say. They should have known
Mhm.
that
Mhm.
this is how I
Right.
felt, or they should have known this was important to me, or they should have known better than to do that to me. But
Mhm.
we haven't used the tool of our voice to survive the holidays. So we might just kind of
Mhm.
grit and bear something, and we're going through something and we're not saying anything. Maybe we're afraid that the relationship is going to like dissolve if we tell the truth. or
Mm-hmm.
tell how we really feel. But at the end of the day, we are responsible for our holiday. We are the one who gets to decide how it's going to
Mm-hmm.
be. So our voice, okay? Here goes
Okay.
another one that's really juicy. Well, first of all, I don't know what you all think about that before I go to the next one. Like, I don't know what's coming up for you in your mind as you think about
Oh,
tool of voice.
I can tell you what I thought about
Yeah,
first was almost every holiday of my life. We went somewhere at Christmas, I should say. We went to my grandmother's house, or we went to my mother's house after my grandmother had passed away.
right.
And and I had 5 kids at home. And so
Hmm.
it felt like, I thought it was my responsibility to get the kids ready. I was the one who had wrapped all the presents, bought all the presents, done all the things. And now on the day of, it was really important to me to get there on time because family was coming in from out of town and I wanted as much time as possible to see everyone.
Right.
So
Mm-hmm.
I was literally pushing the kids to, get dressed, get your hair combed. Come on, let's go, let's go.
Yep.
And then we get ready, and the person who was driving us there all of a sudden decides this is the moment to say, "Oh, I need to go around the house and close all the drapes." And then when we got in the car, it was, "Oh, I need to stop and get gas." And I'm thinking, is a gas station even going to be open
Right.
today? Why didn't you do this yesterday? I was just getting all in a knot. And then they decided to take a different route that they'd never taken before. And yes, we were 18 minutes late getting
Mm,
there.
Ooh.
And not only did I feel like, I was missing out on time, but I also, once we got there, there were family members who decided that they needed to say something to me about being late.
Mm-hmm.
oh man.
Yeah. So, and that didn't get on anyone else. It just was heaped on me. Like it was my
Mm,
responsibility that we were all late. So I
Mm-hmm.
still remember that Christmas because I remember it as being the one where I was just all in knots.
mm,
Mm-hmm.
Man,
Wow.
that is hard
Yeah.
right there. That's a great story, and man, we have so much in common because I would so be the same person. Like, come
Yeah.
on, y'all, and voice going
Hmm.
higher. I don't know about you, but just having
Hmm.
to
Hmm.
learn, I guess a different pace because as I listened
Mhm.
to you describe how you were, I was like, oh, that's that. Yeah, I'm with you, right?
Well,
Um,
you had talked about communicating your
mhm,
expectations, and as I
Right.
look back on that, I realized I didn't. I didn't
mm,
Mm-hmm.
communicate any expectations. I mean, except to say, okay, we're due there at thus and so time.
right.
I was like,
Right.
I thought everybody knew what that was supposed to
I
mean.
mean, oh,
Mm-hmm.
that's a good one.
Yeah, and I didn't say, I
Mm.
want you to be dressed by this time.
Yes, see, that's
Or
so good.
if you need to do something before we leave, I want you to do it before this time
Right.
so that we can leave on time. I did not communicate those things.
Mhm.
Man, and it can be so easy too because definitely, there's other parts there, right? Where
Mhm.
Mhm.
people could have done something differently that would have made it a more favorable outcome.
Right.
But
Mhm.
it's so powerful to look at where because sometimes we can't change people. We can't
Right.
Mhm.
necessarily, even though we see their mistakes and we see where they messed up, we may not be able to do anything about them. But
Mhm.
where
Mhm.
can I going forward? And that's what I hear you saying for myself. Like
Mhm.
where can I going forward figure out how to use my voice to communicate what I need? Because once I communicate what I need and
Mhm.
the
Mhm.
people around me are not respecting that, then I know I'm in a different type of setting, right?
Mhm.
Right.
Where
Right.
Mhm.
where now there may be other types of tools that are needed. Does that make sense? And I
That's
have some of
right.
those to talk about,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
Because
Mhm.
but at least I know that if I'm communicating and even finding out so when I say that we're
Mhm.
going to leave that I want us to leave at 12,
Right.
what
Mhm.
does that mean to you all? What would you all need to do in order for this to happen? And letting
Right.
people say
Mm.
Mhm.
what it
Mm.
means to
Mm.
them. Hey,
Oh, wow.
when I say I want a quiet Christmas, because I might communicate,
Right.
me, I want a quiet Christmas. I want a peaceful Christmas.
Right.
But what does that really mean to the person hearing me? You know, like
Mhm.
for
Mm.
them,
Can
a
you
peaceful
explain?
Christmas might be just having 40 people.
Right. And not 80.
Oh my God.
Right. But
Right.
for me, I'm like, no, that means I actually want to be all alone. Like, not even you here. You get
Mhm.
what I'm saying? Like,
Oh,
so just being able
Wow.
yes,
to,
yes.
I know that's intense, but you get what I'm saying? Like, but what if that is the
Mhm,
case? Right?
mhm,
So just being
Mia,
mhm,
able to be
you know,
clear.
the one thing that you had said on a previous show that really stuck with me is it's okay because people choose how they're going to take something.
That's so
That
true.
I think that was one of the most powerful things
mhm,
because
Yes.
as long as you're communicating
Yeah.
honestly
Yeah.
and from the heart, people should understand it if because if you start you know if you set this and say, hey, listen, I really want to tell you something from my heart. First of all, the other person should be open to hear and understand. Maybe it doesn't fit their expectations, but they need to be able to put themselves in this other person's shoes for a moment and try
mhm,
to understand where this person is going instead of the knee jerk reaction and having an issue and taking a small situation and really just imploding the day, the holiday, the moment. And I think that
mhm,
that's a key thing because you know oftentimes I might have an issue with saying well, I don't want to let this person down, and if you don't go through with stuff, it's going to be a problem instead of just kind of saying these are my reasons. And like you said, you can choose to be upset or you can choose to understand, so the person has that free will. Can you talk about that a little bit?
I'm so glad you brought that up because now this is where it really gets uncomfortable. Okay. So,
Right.
I'm going to make a few jokes here. Like, when you get really, I don't know about you, but when I get really uncomfortable, my underarms start to sweat. This is
Mhm,
one of those moments where
mhm,
now,
mhm,
it's getting hot, and so just
mhm,
fan yourself. But we really sometimes need to take a deep dive in
mhm.
looking at the quality of the relationships of the people we have around us. And when I
mhm,
Right.
say quality, I'm not saying that we just decide we're cutting people off left and right,
Right,
but
right.
understanding that people value the role that you may have in my life
Mhm,
may not be what is actual, right?
mhm, mhm,
Like when we're looking at our relationships and we're talking about communication, the ability to use our voice, ideally in a healthy relationship, I can communicate to you. And even if my communication isn't the best, that person's
mhm.
going to ask me more questions until they understand what I mean, or
Right,
I'm going
right.
to ask them more questions until we get a solid understanding. But we
Mhm.
realize that most people honestly lack communication skills. They lack
True.
the
mhm,
ability to communicate their true feelings or desires. They
Mhm,
lack the ability to actually know what their true desires and feelings are. And I know that
mhm,
was
mhm,
me to even know what I actually really want and
mhm,
or what I really don't want or why. And so,
mhm,
since we know that this is communication is a barrier, now we look at, okay, the quality of this relationship. Who
mhm,
is this person that I'm supposed to be interacting with or I
mhm,
plan to interact with? And kind of doing like what do they call it when you metacognate, you kind of think about your thoughts. Well, we're going to
mhm,
kind of think about this person and these people that I'm going to spend time with. And I want to think about the relationship. So, what do I think these people are doing in my life? And what
mhm,
am I doing in their life? Are they adding value? Are they taking away value? Right? Are
mhm,
they people
mhm,
that are helping me to build up? Am I helping them to build up? Or is our relationship
mhm,
healthy and helpful? Or
mhm,
is it not? And if it's
mhm,
not healthy and if it's not helpful, that doesn't mean that I have to just cut it off per se,
mhm.
even if it's family, which is very hard because
Oh,
sometimes we're
mhm,
thinking that because you're family, I just have to tolerate this relationship. I just
uh-uh.
have to grit and bear this relationship. I have to spend all this time with you, even though you don't
Mhm.
respect me, you do not listen to me, you do not care about how I feel, and you show it consistently. I just have to go through it because you're my mother. I have to go through it because you're my
Mhm.
whatever, fill in the
Mm.
blank.
Or your
And
child, or yeah.
right, right,
Yeah.
or your
Mhm.
child. And that's layered, because the thing is, and that brings me to the next tool, and that is, we have to understand that we actually don't have to. We
Mhm.
can decide to use our space, which is our
Right.
next tool. So our first tool was our voice, and our next tool is our space. And you have to think about this in the context of your relationship. So if we're going to say a child, my
Mhm.
child is only 6 years old, right?
Mhm.
One of them is only 6 years old. Now,
Right.
I can't make her leave the house because she has a really, if she's having a really bad attitude.
Right.
However, I can still use the communication tools. This is
Mhm.
what mommy is asking. This is what I do not like. I
Mhm.
do like. I can also decide space. Okay. Um, how am I going to use space with you to
Mhm.
make sure that we stay healthy, to make sure
Right.
that our relationship is something that is helpful? But
Right.
now, if
Mhm.
my child is 26,
Mm.
right?
Mhm.
Right.
I
Mhm.
have to think about the same tool. How am I going to use my voice? How am I going to use space? Because sometimes a person that is choosing to be
Mm.
unhealthy and unhelpful, I may need to figure out what kind of space am I going to hold with them. Maybe I'm not going to spend as much time as I would like to because it's not
Mhm.
healthy for me. My
Mhm.
That's
mental
right.
health is in jeopardy if I spend copious amounts of time with you. You know, my
Mhm.
or how I'm going to invest my time. I have to be
Mhm.
strategic. Is this making sense? What do you
Oh,
think about what
yeah.
I'm saying?
Yes, yes. I don't know about Rodney, but I'm sitting here thinking of examples in my own life
Mhm.
Yeah.
of this.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I mean,
Absolutely.
those moments when, especially if you've got teenage kids that are still at home,
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
and, it feels like they choose the moment when you've got extra family around and you're supposed to be having a celebration, and
Mhm.
that's the moment that they choose to
Wow.
try to point out to you, what a hypocrite you are, in their
Mhm.
opinion,
Ooh.
about different things. And,
Right.
you feel like you've got to defend yourself, you're starting to get
Mhm.
tense, whatever, and then you're thinking, "Oh, I just, want this person
Mhm.
separated from this whole situation." So, but that's not the moment for you
Mhm.
to be saying things like, as several of us heard when we were growing up. My parents, I don't remember my mom ever saying this, but I know I heard other
Mm.
parents saying this to their kids. Just go to your room. I can't even stand to look at you right now.
Yeah.
Yep. Yep.
It's like,
Yeah,
oh
that's
my goodness, you
yeah.
went too far with that. The go to your room part might be okay.
Yeah.
Right.
We're having some conflict here, and I think you need to take some time to go, so we can all cool off.
Mia, I
But
have a
but
Mia,
not
I have a
using your words that way. Yeah.
Thank
Mia,
you
I
so
have
much for that.
Mia, I have a question. Sometimes I'm a type of person, and I really do try to be strategic in what I say to people, because the first thing that I think about before delivering whatever type of message is, how is this going to really how is
Land.
this person how is it
Yeah.
going to land?
Yeah.
And I always try to land things as gently as possible. Because
Mhm.
I understand people are fragile. We all are different.
Mhm.
There's some people who have a real cut and dry, and they have a dry sense of humor. Me personally, I don't like people with dry senses of humor, because it kind of you're like, was that real, or was they trying to send me a message with that?
Right.
I'm a very, I try to analyze stuff. So I try to be very even, with humor, discussions, conflict,
Mhm.
disagreements. I try to be very right in the middle, and I'm always open to hear another person's viewpoint. But how do you deal with a person that you have a difficult time expressing, and then them understanding? And just like you said, people have, everybody's not going to
Mhm.
understand the same
Right.
way. They're not going to understand at the
Mhm.
same level. And and again, what you two ladies are talking about with your child, maybe a son or a daughter, as a mother, and having a sibling, a older sibling, there's also lines of respect. There's
Yes.
lines of honor. There's
Yes.
lines of obedience. Because me personally, I didn't get much discussion with Mama. I really did. Mama, if whatever Mama said, it was like, okay, Captain,
Mhm.
I'll be right back. Shut your mouth. Okay, Mama. It was that time. It was there was not, you know, I why? I don't think I could. I didn't get too many whys in. There wasn't no why. If Mama said something, and I kind of grew up with an understanding that, and as I grew older, I understood that Mama really did love me. Mama,
Mhm.
if she said, "Don't run out, get away from that street,
Right.
don't get away from that curb."
Mhm.
At the time, you're a kid, like, golly, boy, I ain't gonna fall out in the street. But when you start thinking about it, when you get older, you go, wow, that's why Mama was so, because she was trying to protect me from myself. She really was
Mhm.
trying to help me. And so how do you work that, Mia, if you honestly are trying to communicate, not hurt, not cut or poke? How do you deal with it if a person doesn't receive that at the same level, or at least
Mhm.
be open to it?
This is so good. And I feel like if I can, may I tie in the two things? There are two things that I'm hearing that
Right,
Nina brought up with
right.
that child who, or that person who is
Mhm.
going to use a inopportune time to
Mm.
Mhm.
embarrass you, cause issues, right? And then there's that person who you're kind of like, are you like serious or are you joking?
Right,
Like, how am I communicating with you? Or I'm trying to communicate with you, but it seems like it's not landing right. Like,
right.
what in the
Mhm.
world? Okay. And so there are two principles that came to my mind when I think about this. And
Mhm.
one of them is, well, I feel like most principles come from the Bible one way or another, but
Yeah.
principle of iron sharpens iron.
Right.
Mhm.
Iron sharpens
Mhm.
iron. We know that all of us have been made with different propensities and different behavior, like, mindsets, I should say.
Mhm.
How we understand things. We can all live in the same house, but somehow have a different culture, you know? And
Right.
Mhm.
so we know that, but however, this is iron sharpening iron in the sense
Right.
that iron is not going to get sharp unless it's hitting something else that's sharp, right? And
Mhm.
Right.
so
Mhm.
one of the big things that I like to do now, and
Mhm.
I'm not trying to sound like a professional in the sense that, like, just because I have knowledge doesn't mean I'm perfect at implementing, okay? So I don't want it to sound like
Alright.
I've arrived and this is what you do and I'm perfect at this, you guys. I don't want
Mhm.
it to come off that way.
Mhm.
I want to share this with you in hopes they'll be helpful, but I'm
Mhm.
working on it too. Okay. So
Okay.
so we know that iron sharpens iron. And so if I start off my conflicts with people as a mindset opportunity,
Mhm.
my
Mhm.
mindset is not going to be that you're my enemy, but that you're
Right.
my iron sharpening my iron. Makes
Wow.
sense?
Mhm. Mhm.
So
Nice.
no,
Mhm.
this isn't us gonna, like, you're
Clash.
my enemy and I'm against you because now I have different chemicals going on in my body, right? But if
Mhm.
you're
Mhm.
my
Mhm.
iron sharpening iron, then and this may not be possible because in some cases people in our family actually they are our enemy. And that's a hard one.
Mm.
Because we
Mhm.
see biblically that
Mhm.
sometimes
It's
people
in your own house.
do choose to be the enemy. They want to be the
Mhm.
enemy. They are practicing enemy principles, right?
Mm.
Mhm.
Principles of
Mhm.
degradation, principles of hate, principles of evil, right?
Mhm. Yeah.
Wow.
So this is
Wow. Mhm.
possible in our families. But for the
Wow.
sake of just hitting this principle that Nina was talking about, let's say we're going to start off believing the best, that you are
Mhm.
iron sharpening iron. You have a
Right.
personality, I have a personality. You have a background, I have a background, and they're clashing. And in this moment, you're trying to embarrass me in front of my company. Now we go into the second principle. Okay, this is iron sharpening iron moment. So I'm going to become sharper in some way for the better because you need sharp iron, right?
That's
To
right.
It's a tool that needs to be sharp. So this
Mhm.
is going to help me be sharper. This is going to help me be better. Whatever the situation
Mhm.
is, I will be better after this. Okay. Next thing though,
Mm-hmm.
Um, consider the iceberg principle. And I read this in a book by Kay Kuzma, and I can't
Mm.
remember the title, but she is an amazing child psychologist. And many of the principles translate even to our adult relationships. She
Mm-hmm.
talks about the principle of the iceberg, that
Right.
when we see something happening, there's a deeper issue going on underneath the surface. And so when
Mm.
I hear that a person is embarrassing me in front of people and
Ooh.
they're doing, especially a kid, but even an adult, if they're practicing behaviors that right at the wrong time, now they're going to
Mm-hmm.
act out, that lets me know there's something else going on under the surface.
There you go.
There is a unresolved issue, maybe
Mm-hmm.
an unresolved hurt, an
Mm-hmm.
unresolved situation, an unresolved thought
Right.
that
Wow.
is causing that. Because that's usually
Mm-hmm.
what happens with kids when there's something that hasn't been dealt with that's bothering them. They
Mm-hmm.
act out like that in a time that would be not the best time, right? Because
Right.
there's something else happening. It has nothing to do with this moment.
Mm-hmm.
And in some cases, kids do practice that. They're getting you back for another
Yeah.
time. And so it's
Ooh.
our opportunity to figure out why, what's happening in our relationship that you feel you need to do this, because I now see it as a cry for help, actually. I'm not gonna I see that you're trying to embarrass me right now, or you're
Mm-hmm.
acting this way. I'm gonna see this as a cry for the relationship. I'm going to see this as a cry for, hey, we may need to in private have a conversation. Maybe we need to actually have more time together having fun.
Mm-hmm.
Not
Right.
just me always telling you do this, do that. Did you do this?
Right.
Did you do that? But maybe we need more fun time together so that
Hmm.
we build those good endorphins with each other. So
Yeah.
that now, because we've spent time having fun and laughing and creating better memories together where we're not fussing
Mm-hmm.
and fighting with each other, in a hot moment where now there's company, you're on my side. You're on my side.
Right.
You're not
Right.
seeing this as an opportunity to get me for what happened before.
Mhm.
Does that
Mhm.
make sense?
Oh
Oh,
yeah.
yeah.
And this may
Yeah.
even happen with our adult relationships too. Sometimes we are Mia, do you do parent child? Okay. That's so awesome. Thank you. But man, but sometimes with adults it's the same way,
Mm-hmm.
like
Mhm.
this we're having an issue. But there's
Mm-hmm.
something that happened before now and it's coming to the
Mhm.
head. I even think about
Mhm.
Right.
where you said that person may be doing that dry humor and you're like, wait, is this that you are joking or it's a stab,
Right.
right?
Oh
Mhm.
yeah.
Mhm.
Maybe this person um they could be joking and just
Mm-hmm.
having fun, and that's just their personality. But if it's a jab, now we get to use our tools of communication and be like, hey, you know, that 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 was kind of funny, but kind of hurt a little bit. Were
Mhm.
you joking? Were you joking? And actually
Right.
asking them, like, were you joking or is there were you serious? To see, because this also arrests that behavior in some cases where it's
Right.
like, hey, I'm letting you know that I don't
I got that.
necessarily like how that's going. That didn't land well with me.
Right.
Did you
Mhm.
mean to hurt
Mhm.
me by what you just said, or did you mean to do that?
Yeah.
Because I don't believe you're that type of I don't believe that you are a person that seeks to hurt me. But what you
Are
just
you?
did, did hurt.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Was
Right.
what
Mhm.
why did you say that? Like, can you
Right.
Mhm.
tell me more? Like, why did you say that, or why did you feel to say that? And
Mhm.
depending on that person's communication style, they could decide to get upset, and be like, I was just
Mhm.
playing with you. I didn't mean anything. And so you can say, well, thank you for clarifying.
Right.
Thank you for making that clear, because I love you and I love our relationship, and I'm trying to get better at communicating with people I love and having a good relationship. So that's why I asked you. You see?
Mhm.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying? And that's just
You know, I'm intrigued by this because I feel like I'm still, even as an adult, as old as I am, I feel like I'm still trying to navigate
Mm-hmm.
this with other people and
Mhm.
not always successfully. So I'm thinking of one instance in particular where I raised a question on Facebook
Mhm.
Mm-hmm.
um, about something that I knew people had strong opinions about,
Right.
but
Right.
I really wanted to hear
Right.
people's viewpoints. I wanted to
Mm.
hear both sides because I really wanted to understand. And so
Mhm.
I told people, I said, I'm inviting you to comment on this, but I don't want to see anything derogatory said about people who disagree with you.
Right.
If I see that in your comments, your comment will be deleted,
Right.
and
Right.
and I may unfriend you if it's bad enough.
Right.
Just saying, I want you to be respectful. That's,
Right.
I think, the
Ooh.
way I termed it. So there was one person who came on and made her comment. She really didn't even say, "This is my position on it," or "This is how I think." She just started talking about how everyone else who didn't see things her way was an idiot.
Right. Right.
And yeah, and I was like, so I commented back and I said, you just said this about the other people on this post, in spite
Mhm.
of the fact that I had said this about being respectful.
Right.
And I said, so it looks to me like, you know, you deliberately were disrespectful to these people. Like,
Mhm.
I said, and I think I even made the comment, usually people who have a weak position have to find ways to attack people to, support
Wow.
their position. I said, I noticed you didn't I said, so please, explain to me what your position is and why you felt it necessary to do this. And I
Hmm.
did that on Facebook because she had done this publicly
Right.
herself. I was like, okay, then I need to address it publicly.
Right.
And she came back and said, "Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to hurt anyone's feelings."
Hmm.
And I thought at the moment, that's not good enough for me.
Mhm.
Right.
Because you can say that, but
Right.
so I just asked her, I said, "Then please tell us what you did mean so we won't misunderstand you."
Right.
Mm.
And there was no comments from her after that.
Right.
Yep.
Right. I
So,
mean, mhm.
yeah, so just the way to challenge people,
Yeah.
I
Mhm.
think, at the same time, but keep it respectful.
Right.
Wow.
Yeah.
I love how you did that. I really love how you did that, Nina. As a person who I grew up in the South, for those who don't, my accent, I'm a Southerner. And so
Mhm.
I've been trained to do the opposite of what you said, is to, oh, that person was disrespectful.
Mhm.
Just let it go. That's just them. Don't challenge
Mhm.
them. That
Mhm.
just let
Mm.
them be themselves, or take it down quietly and don't say anything, something like that.
Mhm.
But what I love is that you set a boundary. You said, hey, I have a
Right.
question and I want your opinion, but this is how I would like it to go. That was you setting the boundary or the
Mhm.
rules for the game, right?
Right. That's
Mhm.
right.
Now,
Right.
anybody that wanted to play the game or wanted to be a part of inside your fence, your boundary,
Had to
would
follow
now
rules.
Mhm.
to follow that rule. And anyone who decided they didn't want to do that and did it anyway, they were indicating to you how they felt about your boundary.
Yeah.
Mm.
And so whether they say they're joking or not, they
Mhm.
showed by their fruit. You will know what's
Mhm.
going on, right? And I'm not trying to
That's
say that
right.
the
Right.
person who put that post was a bad person or anything like that. Sometimes I
Mhm.
do think
Right.
people do things just because they want to feel seen, or somebody
Mhm.
might say
Mhm.
they want attention. They
Right.
want to feel seen. Even
Mhm.
and here's another principle that comes from Kay Kuzma's book, and she talks about how even with kids, bad attention is better than no attention, right? And
Mhm.
so there
Mhm.
are people who, unfortunately, because of their lives, because of what they've experienced, they're used to getting bad attention. They're used to they
Mhm.
crave quote unquote bad attention,
Oh
attention for
yeah.
doing something that is not correct. And I'm
Right.
calling it
Mhm.
bad because you had put out the parameters and they
Mhm.
purposefully did that. So we don't know why that person did it, but it can be helpful. Iron sharpening iron. It can be
Mhm.
helpful for us to know that, hey, this may be
Mm.
going on. There are people out there that crave attention so much that even if it's bad attention, I'll take it.
Wow.
Because
Mhm. Mhm.
I want it to be seen, I want it to be heard, I want it to be noticed, and even if
Mhm.
it's for something bad, and this could be
Mhm.
happening on a subconscious level. You don't even realize that, but because our kids will do it too, when they
Mhm.
crave that attention, I'll get in trouble because at least you're going
Mhm.
to be paying attention to me. And during the
Mhm.
holidays, kids may
Mhm.
feel like they're not seen because there's so many adults and so many things going on, so we just never.
Mhm.
Mhm.
She
Yep.
said,
And we
wow.
someone yeah, go ahead.
No, there's a comment here. Wow, Nina, maybe my mom does it now because she's feeling unimportant. She's not treated that way by us, though. Yeah, that's so good. That's so good. I'm not sure if your mom is a senior citizen, but that's a dynamic that can happen as well.
Mhm.
Sometimes, parents feel like,
Mhm.
I'm older now, I'm forgotten, people don't really see me, and so they may do things to get that kind of attention. At least
Mhm.
you see me. At least somebody's gonna call if I'm hurting or if I fail or
Yeah.
if,
Right.
I act a certain way. I know that this will get this response out of you.
Mhm.
Mhm.
I put this back up, Mia, because this is the same person. This is Carrie, and she's saying, I'm 60 and my mom is 84. So I think you
Oh.
touched on, that element of dealing with when you're a child, but you're dealing
Mhm.
with, you're a grown up now, but you're dealing
Mhm.
with your mom or your dad. Yeah, Carrie says she's 84
Mm.
and very alert, very smart.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, but she may be feeling
Mhm.
neglected or, out of it, or, and when I say out of it, I mean like not connected to the family, like she's out of the loop.
Mhm.
So for that one, I'm so glad, Carrie. Thank you, because I always see your name come up in that special way, and I'm
Mhm.
like, I don't know how to pronounce. I forget. But Carrie,
Yeah.
if I may say, Carrie, I'm so glad you brought that question in. Um, and I think it would be fun to do a show, but I'm thinking about your mom being 84, and I was blessed to be on the executive committee for the Council on Aging in my city. And so
Mm.
I've been learning a lot about our senior citizens, and
Mhm.
there are so
Mhm.
many things that could actually be happening with them, which I think is important for us to know during the holidays. And so one of the things that they talked about in some of those workshops that we do in the council is they talk about how lonely it can be to age,
Mhm.
even when
Mhm.
people are around you, right? So
That's right.
she may not be lonely physically, like there are people around,
Mhm.
but just that
Mhm.
sense of loneliness that
Mhm.
certain things that I could do, I'm not able to do anymore. Another thing that they talked about that we can observe is sometimes seniors were creating narratives. They were
Mhm. Right.
creating scenarios or stories in their mind that were not actually even true. And I know my
Mhm.
husband and I watched our parents go through this with the great grandma, right? Is that
Mhm.
she would tell people that, oh, they're not taking care of me, they're not helping me, but it was
Right.
nothing further than from the truth. Like we were there, we could
Mhm.
see that she was being taken care of very well. But when she would get on the
Mhm.
phone with other family members, oh, they don't love me and they don't feed me and they don't this, that,
Oh.
and the other. And there are multiple reasons why that can be happening. And I hate to say it,
Mhm.
but one of them could potentially be early onset dementia, just to be
Mhm.
honest. And
That's
this
right.
is where I want to bring in that third resource, okay, to survive the holidays. And that
Mhm.
is use your resources. Use your resources. So
Mhm.
we've talked about
Wow.
Mhm.
use your communication,
Mhm.
use your space, right?
That's
So
right.
how am I going
Mhm.
to talk to let people know what I want, what I don't want? And if I don't understand, getting more information, asking more questions, using my space, understanding that just because somebody is family doesn't mean that the relationship is healthy or helpful. And so if it
Mhm.
is not, I may not need to cut off the relationship. I may not be able to, but how am I going to use my space with this person
Mhm.
strategically so that I keep myself healthy? And then now using
Mhm.
my resources. Your mom is 84 and others whose parents are getting, older, knowing what resources I can tap into that can help
Mhm.
me, because caregiver burnout is real.
That's right.
Caregiver burnout is real and it's happening during the holidays. And so
Mhm.
being able to know, are there support groups for seniors that may
Mhm.
help with the loneliness actually?
Mhm.
Right?
Mhm.
Like senior
Mhm.
centers are so amazing because these are places where seniors can go. They can be dropped off. Sometimes they can even be picked up, and they
Mhm.
can play things like bingo and Uno, and they have
Mhm.
guest speakers come in
Yeah.
to speak and talk to them, and they can make new friends even at their age. And so senior centers in your area are a great resource for those of us who have aging parents. And if they're not quite at that stage where they're going to go to a senior center, right?
Mhm.
I think it's still important because we are looking at generations, like Rodney talked about earlier.
Mhm.
You said, your mom was the mom who was like, you don't question, you just do what I say, right? And that's a
Yeah.
particular generation. My mom, my mom is like that too, right?
Yeah.
So you just do
Mhm.
what I say, and that's it. But we do, now that we're adults,
Mhm.
have to be authentic to who
Right.
we are and
Yeah.
say, mom, I understand that's what our relationship was like,
Mhm.
when I was your baby, but I am
Right.
an adult now, and this is
Right.
what I
Right.
need. How can we do this?
Right.
And I'm not saying it's going to be pretty, but I am saying that
Mhm.
it is a tool that you can use, and I invite you to use consistently. Hmm.
Me as a professional, I've encountered in my lifetime, um, just I mean, and we all deal with it in some form or another. Basic and like you're saying, sometimes some of these things are manipulation.
Right.
And you have to be able to set these guidelines because, people, they'll take your love, they'll take your position, your family, your friend, you are a coworker,
Right.
and then it starts to become arm wrestling. It becomes a manipulative type of thing instead of understanding how do you deal with a person really trying to leverage their will over your
Mhm.
ability to choose.
That's so hard, and it's funny because I did a Facebook post recently also, and
Mhm,
thank you, Nina. I think you commented on it as well, and I
mhm,
was just talking about recovering from being a rescuer.
mhm,
And this is a work that, if anybody's ever heard of Lynn Forrest, she does a
mhm,
lot of work on the idea of the victim.
mhm,
What does she call it? The victim triangle, right? And
mm,
on this triangle, it's an inverted triangle. So triangles are supposed to. I don't know how to make a
yeah,
triangle with my fingers, but
yeah,
a triangle is like that.
just
But
upside
this is
down.
an upside down triangle, and
Mhm,
on this triangle is the rescuer, the victim, and the persecutor, right? And
mm,
basically, she says that we can all rotate around this triangle at any given time. I can be a rescuer. Here I am to help you. But then when you don't, rescue me when I need it, how dare you? I'm
mm,
persecuting you now, right? Yes,
wow,
thank you, Lynn Forrest, the victim triangle. It's an amazing work. You can Google it. You can read about it. The information is there. And she talks
mm,
about a victim mindset. And these are all mindsets, right?
mhm,
That we play out in any given, that we may do at any given time. The victim mindset says, somebody help me, I need help, no one's helping me, I need help, not
mhm,
realizing that a lot of times you can help yourself. There are things you can do. There are
right,
things you can't do, but what can you do? I can use my voice to get help, but am I needing help because I really need it, or is it something else I need, but I'm making it about people needing to do something for me? And then the
mm,
persecutor is that person's like, it's your fault, you know I had to do that to you. You made me do that to you.
mm,
Like, if I wouldn't have done this if you wouldn't have done that, right? And the
right,
idea of the persecutor is someone who's often maybe been hurt, and they're trying to protect themselves, and so they feel
yeah,
justified in hurting you because I had to get you before you got me, or you made me do it, and it's never their fault.
mhm,
But all of them are victim. All of them are victim mindsets. They all are, and so
right,
they're things that we can heal from. And I feel like awareness is huge, because everybody's not going to go back and read Lynn Forrest or Kay Kuzma, but we're discussing it.
mhm,
And if we personally continue to grow personally and
mhm,
then use what we're learning with those
right,
around us, we can affect change in some way. Because if at the end of the day, I just don't allow you to manipulate me anymore,
there you
then
go.
that that there's change right there.
Me a quick question, there's certain things that, because our world is full of people who have some very strong opinions, as
So
Nina
true.
was saying.
So true.
And sometimes I have chosen the position of I'm not going to say anything. I have no opinion. I'm not going to say anything because anything you say can be right or wrong. in some cases. Now, you don't want to do that in your faith walk. Either you're going to be faithful, and you're going to, you got to tell the truth, and walk that line. But there comes a time that I've made a very conscious decision to not have an opinion. And I'll tell people straight up, I'm not going to tell you, because if and I've explained, and I say, because if I this is a loaded question. I don't like loaded questions. And so I'm like, I'd rather not answer that. And I'll leave it alone. And I'm like, and I just won't continue, because I don't feel that I have to tell you. My mom, when I was a kid growing up, my mom says, Rodney, you don't have to tell all your business.
That's right.
And I was like,
there's a boundary.
yeah. And that was mama's deal. I was like, and as I grew older, I started to realize, I was like, you really don't have to explain everything. You don't have to justify your decisions. You don't have to justify your wants, your needs, your thoughts, your faith. You don't have to. You can just say, I hear you. I'll tell people all the time, I hear you. I hear you talking.
Yeah.
And that's how I end that sentence. If I hear you, and I won't say anything, because, and again, I want to be better, and like you said, of course, iron does sharpen iron, but things that look like iron, when you are iron and you dealing with aluminum that's shiny, you feel me?
Oh, wow.
Iron start working on aluminum,
Right.
something's going on. I ain't getting sharper. I know that.
That is so good. And I'm so glad you brought that in, Rodney, because it makes me think about that scripture. Doesn't that make you think of the scripture, be harmless, be wise, be as wise as a serpent, but harmless as a dove. And in that scripture, Jesus is not telling us to be manipulators, like, I'm going to figure out how to, like, man, I love that you said that, because no, I do not have to tell all my business. I don't owe anyone anything. It's that same mindset. This is a holiday. This is for me. And my life is actually a holiday, and my life is my life. And so I get to decide what I'm going to do and what I'm not going to do. But I do have to also understand that with whatever choices I make come consequences,
right?
For better or for worse. And so just I consider that as I decide what I'm going to do and what I'm not going to do with my life, with my holiday, right? And I love how you said, that iron on aluminum, right? Because by their fruit, there goes another principle, by their fruit you will know them. And let's not ignore the fruit, right? And we're not judging someone and saying, oh, you're going to hell because you act this way or you act that way. But I am looking at your fruit to see if it's fruit I should eat or not, right? If it's fruit I should continue to try to grow in my garden or not. Because maybe it's not. Maybe it's good fruit for someone else, but not me. Because aluminum foil does great on a casserole, but if it's not working in this relationship, that's okay too.
Yeah.
That's okay too. And it's even if it's family, and that's the part that's painful. That even if it's family, hey, maybe we just can't walk together because we do not agree. But that doesn't mean I can't be civil when I see you, or like I limit my space, but I still, decide when I will be able to take you in a way that's going to be healthy for me and helpful where possible. This can be difficult. And I want to talk about resources really quick. I know our time's almost up, but the idea of, so we talked about tools being our communication, our space, and lastly, our resources. As we survive the holidays, I really want people to think about, what resources do you have? A resource is something that is helpful to you. It's going to assist you in some way. And so if during the holidays, things are getting tough, right? Because some of us are in a marriage relationship, and it's not easy to just use communication, because that's the problem. Or it's not so easy to use space, because that's also the problem.
Right.
And so now what do I do? And so this is where resources can come in to really be of help when some of us feel that we're in those situations where we're stuck. Then, and I just want to highlight some of those resources that you have that sometimes we can forget we have. May I do that just really fast?
Sure.
And so remember, resources that you have, even if you feel like you're in a situation where you're stuck, remember you still have friends. So, what friends as a resource can you tap into? So, maybe in my home, it is toxic, but there may be a friend resource that I can tap into that when I talk to this friend, they understand me, they hear me, they
Mhm.
bring me joy. So, I may have to have this toxic situation right now. I'm still figuring out how to get this
Mhm.
together or do what I need to do in this situation, but I can connect to friends, right? I can connect to a therapist, right? Or a
Mhm.
coach, someone
Mhm.
who understands the mind, that can recognize when I believe lies and kind of ask me questions and help me see where I may need to untangle something, right? A
Mhm.
therapist or someone, I may need to go to a support group. And there's lots of them
Mm.
that happen even during the holidays. So Google it.
Mhm.
Are there support groups in my area that are still happening during the holidays, on Christmas Day, even
Wow.
where I can go there
Mhm.
and be with people who understand that it's not happy for me. I'm a veteran's wife and he didn't come home or she didn't come home and I'm
Wow.
sad. How can I connect with people who understand that right now? So those are
Mhm.
resources, okay? Another one, books. So we talked about Lynn Forrest. We talked
Mhm.
about the book Boundaries, and there's
Mhm.
so many books. Looking at a book that deals with your specific situation, parenting. Kay Kuzma's books are amazing. Kay
Mhm.
Kuzma, Kuzma, Kay Kuzma. Her books are amazing for parenting. Curling up with a good book and being able to get some strategies from there. Can
Mhm.
I say this? Sometimes you may not have the time to read a whole book, but highlighting parts. Oh, I got something from there. I'm going to use that one thing.
Mhm.
Um,
Mhm.
music is a resource for you right now.
Yeah.
Sometimes when the atmosphere is toxic and it feels really tight and there's a lot of tension, playing
Mhm.
music that's going to help kind of shift the atmosphere with your kids, shift the
Wow.
atmosphere with your spouse, shift the atmosphere for you because of the music that's playing. Some people need to grieve and they're not letting themselves.
Mhm.
Some music may be helpful in helping you get those tears out that have been stored in
Mhm.
your heart. And some
Nice.
people are like,
Mhm.
I feel like I just can't stop crying and I really want to. So finding a different type of music may be helpful for you, right? And
That's right.
then lastly, exercise, and I really encourage everyone. There's so many benefits of getting outside and just taking a walk that will help your mood and help you survive and give you clarity so you can have the bandwidth to deal with the
Mhm.
different iron tools or aluminum
Mhm.
Mhm.
that you're going to
There you go.
face. Just to get away for a little bit and come back can make a huge difference. Yeah.
Mhm.
Wonderful.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What do
I
you
love
think, Mia?
that. I love that. I love all of it. And I know our time is limited. I wanted to throw out one more thing.
Oh, yes.
Sure.
I was talking to someone recently who there's some strain between
Mm,
this person and their partner, and uh, they're trying to communicate, but they're
Mhm.
struggling. And both of them were needing some space, but they
Mhm.
live in this tiny apartment and it's sleeting outside. And
Mm.
so, and neither one of them can afford to go to a coffee shop, and they can't even really afford to get a coffee or something. So they're like, so what do we do when we need this space? And how do we communicate that with each other without letting the other one think, oh, I just, I don't want anything to do with you and leave me alone, and which
Mm.
only creates more tension.
Right.
So one of the things they did was they took something and made it a sign. And for instance, it might be a red towel. And they say, when I hang this red towel on the door, I'm not ready to talk and I need to be alone.
yes.
And until that red towel comes off the door, I don't care where I am in the apartment. Because, I may come out of this room and you might think, oh, now they're ready to talk because no, I just wanted a sandwich.
Wow.
I needed to go to the kitchen and get a sandwich. But as long as that red towel is on the door, I'm not ready to talk. But when I take it off, then I am. And you can
Mm,
approach me at any time.
that's beautiful. That's so beautiful. I feel like that is the perfect just tie up of what we've been saying. Like I just feel that's so good because they communicated. They
Mm-hmm.
communicated their boundaries, they communicated where they were. They
Mhm.
figured out how to utilize this space, though small and though they can't get away and they can't get out, can't get. but they still found a smart way to utilize their space. And most importantly, they used their time for them for what they needed. They were their own advocate
They
for
took
what
it.
they
They took
needed.
it.
Absolutely. And
Right.
they took that responsibility. Absolutely. Thank you, Carrie. Thank
Oh.
you. Yes.
Well, we've had a lot of wonderful comments, and we thank everybody who chimed in, and
Yes.
people kind of reflecting
Amen.
on their own lives and
Right, true.
other situations, and that's what the This Way Network is all about. We want people. We're having an open discussion. This is the chat session, and we are here. And again, we were just saying how to survive the holidays. Mia Powell, Pain Unwasted, thank you so
Yes.
much for coming
Thank
on
you.
with us. Nina, it's always great being on. And
Yes.
again, the holidays are here, people. And so, God bless yourself. God bless your family. Remember, just be happy for the holidays, and take Mia's advice. If you're going through something, reach out for those support groups. Find that favorite song of yours, sink into something that will take you away, escape, and be happy for the holidays. Don't carry a lot of burdens. And also, people, we all must be very aware of how we're behaving in our family circles, our friend circles, co-workers, the stranger on the street. Please be understanding, because there's a lot of traffic. People are out shopping, nerves are rattled. So please be kind to one another. Put yourself in other people's shoes and be mindful. It is the holiday, and may we carry that spirit, not just through the holiday, through every day.
That's awesome.
Amen. Amen. And I just want to add thank you to our audience. You bring so much to the conversation with your comments and your openness, your
Mm-hmm.
questions. So, Carrie, Mark, Anna,
Mm-hmm.
Jacqueline, I'm trying to remember who else was on here. Robin, Anna, thank
Yep.
you so much for being with us this morning.
Yep.
And to all of you out there, we just want to say Merry Christmas and be of good courage, because God is with us and we are not alone.
Hold on.
Bye,
And,
everybody.
and
Oh,
hold on,
more.
Nina. And when are we? And we're back. Are we off on Christmas?
Oh, we haven't settled that yet.
We
What,
don't
what do you
know.
think, Rodney? Should we be
Well,
here yet or not?
just let you know. Stay tuned. Look for the post if something great happens. If not, Merry Christmas. Merry Christmas. Woo. There we go.
Merry Christmas, everybody. Thank you, Mia.
Yes.
And
Thank you
bye
for
for
having me.
now.
Bye-bye, everybody.